Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Commercial Hour. This is Jesus Henao. Be in the know your city. If you want to talk about real estate, if you want to know about apartment buildings, shopping centers, retail centers, what is selling, what is not, what's going on with land in the valley, you're in the right place. Put on your jersey and let's get this thing rocking. Well, it was a wild weekend last week. I was actually in Washington, D.C., and amazing. Got to meet with some incredible people. And back here, got my suit back on and back in business. So just to give you an update, what's going on. I think last week we talked about a property that was selling in Southgate. And that property, keep my fingers crossed, it looks like it's going to close today. So we're excited about it. And that was a $3.5 million deal. It was 21 units, all cash buyer. Very nice deal, so I'm excited about that. So hopefully at the end of the show today, I'll get that magic phone call saying, "Hey Zeus, your funds have been wired," and we'll be very happy about that. So moving along, I want to talk about another deal going on here that it's sort of a sleeper deal in Santa Clarita. It's on Lions. It's actually listed by a good friend of mine, Yair Heimoff, and it's on Lions at 22916 Lions. And it's a shopping center. It's actually a business center, and it's selling for about a 6.2 existing cap rate. What does that mean? It means that if you were to buy this thing all cash, you'd get about a 6.2% return on your investment. But there's a pro forma aspect to it. What does that mean? If I go in there, raise some rents, do some creative management, do some other things, improving the building, you can get almost an 11% return on your money. The price of that deal is $2.8 million. It was built in 1974. It's about It's about 12,000. I'd say 13,000 square feet. It's right in our backyard. If you want to open up a business, you want a new headquarters, you want great street exposure, right next to all the drive-by traffic to the DMV, Jack in the Box, Hart High School. And more importantly, the new Halls Crossing. This is the deal for you. Give me a call and let's talk about it. My number, again, is 818-570-3301, 818-570-3301. All that gets you into the rotation. So give me a call. Just a little note, we're going to be plugging this throughout the show. Be sure to tune in right after the show today from 1 to 3. KHTS will have a 2-hour special hosted by Sharon Brubaker and Alex Urbina to remember the tragedy of the Route 91 Festival in Las Vegas that happened a year ago. I can't believe how fast that has gone. Some nefarious character decided to, for whatever reason. I don't think they ever found out why he did what he did, but very sad day, and we're going to commemorate all those lives that were lost in that shooting. So we have on the line Kelvin Davis. He's a good friend. Unfortunately, he is from UCLA, so we won't hold that against him. Let me put on my headsets here, and let's get ready to rock with Kelvin. We're going to talk SBA financing. Kelvin, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you, Jesus. I didn't know you held such animosity for my Bruins.
I think they're doing great. I love their football program, and Chip Kelly's doing a great job.
Well, thank you.
Hey, did they win over the weekend, by the way?
No, unfortunately we did not, but we'll discuss that another time.
You know what? I think that USC is in the same boat. They barely squeaked by a win over the weekend. So I'm feeling what you're feeling. Kelvin, tell us a little bit about your background, how long you've been doing SBA loans. I see you also have a law degree from Southwestern. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. My background, when I got out of college at UCLA, I was drawn into banking. My first position, though, was as a bank regulator. I spent a number of years as part of the Office of Thrift Supervision, and I really cut my teeth there, understanding and learning about real estate finance. After leaving there and earning my law degree on a part-time basis, I then got into commercial real estate finance and soon was quickly drawn into SBA, small business commercial real estate finance, where I've spent nearly 20 years now financing properties for business owners.
Wow. So That's fantastic. That's a great track record there. And like most of my listeners, the people that we bring on, they're qualified professionals. They have a track record. These are the people that I personally recommend to my clients when they want to put a deal together, want to move into, they want to buy a property, they want to open up a new business. Kelvin is one of the examples of the people that I use because I know he has a track record. He knows what he's doing, and he's going to tell us up front without wasting any time, hey, can we do a deal here? We cannot do a deal here. So, again, thank you for coming on, Kelvin. And let's talk a little bit about financing. What's the difference between SBA? What does SBA mean first? And what is the difference between SBA and just regular financing? What's the difference there? What does that mean?
That's a great question, Jesus. A lot of people don't realize that there is a really big difference between what we call conventional financing and small business financing. The federal government wants to incentivize business owners to invest in their businesses, and one of the important components of that is obtaining financing. So the SBA was created, Small Business Administration. It's a separate government program under the Treasury Department that's designed to help small business owners get information about financing, get educated about business growth and development, and the SBA works directly with private banks like mine to provide financing for business owners. So financing is available for commercial real estate, business acquisition, equipment, working capital, a lot of different avenues that business owners can pursue to get money that they need for their businesses.
Wow. So you're from the government and you're here to help? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, sort of.
I'm just kidding. But go ahead. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? How does the government or the federal government and private business, how do they interact there?
Well, the federal government incentivizes banks by basically offsetting some of their risk. The federal government steps in and says, look, we're going to offset some of the risk in the event of a loss that the bank would otherwise incur by guaranteeing a portion of the outstanding loan.
Oh.
So the bank has to, first of all, it has to be underwrite in agreement with the underwriting requirements that the government sets. So one of the important things is that the money must be used clearly for a business use. We cannot offer loans that are used for personal use or for investment property use. So if you're looking to buy an apartment building or buy something that's rented out to other people, that would not be an eligible use. But if the building's going to be occupied by your business, by the applicant's business, then it would be eligible. And the good thing is that for commercial real estate, the applicant's business only needs to occupy a minimum of 51% of the building. So the applicant can lease out up to 49% of the property.
And let me ask you this: you said that the federal government guarantees a portion of the loan. How much is that? Is that 20%, 30%? What is the typical?
It's different on different loan types. So without getting too deep into the weeds, it's not the same percentage of the loan in all situations. But on commercial real estate deals, it's generally up to 75% of the outstanding loan amount is guaranteed by the federal government. Wow. Which means that in the event of a loss, the lender can go back to the government, to the Small Business Administration, and request reimbursement for any losses that it sustains up to 75% of the outstanding loan amount. So the bank is always on the hook for 25% of the outstanding loan.
Well, that's not a bad deal. Once again, we have Kelvin Davis from Seacoast Capital here calling in today. We're talking SBA financing, and very interesting. I like this program because if I want to start a business, or let's say, I think we talked a while back. I had a piece of real estate. I had my eyes on it. It was an office building. I wanted to occupy it. I wanted to move my company there. And we talked about SBA financing. And for the small guy out there, there is a vehicle for you to have success. Yeah. And that's great. I mean, most people don't know that.
That's correct. It's really surprising. A lot of people don't know. They go to a bank, their bank, they apply for a loan. The banker might tell them that they need to put down 30 or 40 or even 50%. And for many business owners, that's just too much capital to invest in a piece of real estate. So many, unfortunately, don't take advantage of the SBA because they don't know about it, because of ignorance. But wow. Many more business owners, through the internet, through other sources, through other competitors or friends, they're learning about the SBA as a viable alternative to what we would describe as conventional financing.
So All right, perfect. So let me ask you this: what type of in the last year or last 2 years, the economy's been booming. A lot of people are taking advantage of opening businesses, buying property, getting on the feet. What are you seeing are the businesses that are being opened? What do you see out there?
I see a variety of businesses, all the way from restaurants, mom and pop restaurants. Last year I financed a borrower in Ventura who owns a hamburger stand. He had an opportunity after leasing the property for a long time to actually purchase the property. We financed that transaction for him. We actually did a second transaction for him as well. But another group of people could be somebody who's just a manufacturer or maybe a wholesaler. Last year this year I financed a food processing company where a small business owner had specialized in some vegan products and was manufacturing, baking, and cooking these and distributing those to various health food stores and other boutique groceries. She also had an opportunity to buy the property, and that's what generally happens. When the opportunity to buy comes up, a lot of my clients are faced with a situation where maybe unexpectedly, after leasing a property, they now have an opportunity to buy it. And that's important because if they don't buy it, then they might actually lose their lease. They may actually lose occupancy, and that could be highly disruptive to the business.
Absolutely, especially if they have an established location. Maybe it's a nice sushi place, it's doing great, and the owner sells the property and their lease is about to expire, and the new owner says, well, I need that space to, bring in a Starbucks or whatever it is. Why not make the move to buy the property themselves? And what type of let's say, just hypothetically speaking, let's say a property cost $1 million, and it's a small office. I want to move in there. What type of down payment do I have to come in with to make it work? Let's say my financials check out. I've been, and I have a track record of maybe 10 years in the business, and I found a small office building. What type of outlay do I have to put out to buy that $1 million property if I'm getting an SBA loan?
Yeah, SBA is well known for financing up to 90%. So
what? Did you just
right.
say 90%?
Up to 90% financing on the purchase of an owner-user piece of commercial real estate. So in that case, in your example, I would say 10% down would be workable plus closing costs. So you're probably looking at somewhere between down payment and closing costs, maybe 13, 14%.
So maybe that $1 million, so what, 13 grand?
$1 million, about 130 grand.
I wanted to catch you there slipping for a second.
No problem.
130 grand, okay, but then I own the property. And what type of
correct.
rates are we looking at, by the way?
Well, it really depends on the profile of the business and the business owner. So not everybody gets the same rate and term. I think that that's an important thing to mention. Some businesses might be newer. They may have had some issues in the past. There may be some prior credit issues, maybe a prior bankruptcy. Some businesses are not going to get the same rate as the business you described that may have been in place for 10 years, excellent cash flow, excellent credit, excellent reserves. So I would encourage your customers and your radio listeners to really get pre-qualified. Talk with your banker and review your tax returns, review your financials, ask simple questions about, what can I finance and what can I expect to do based on these numbers. And hopefully that banker will give you an honest assessment.
Well, if they're talking to me, you know where I'm sending them. I'm sending them to you, Kelvin Davis, Seacoast Capital, on the phone with us today. And so let's say I have my business, so I'm selling, sushi. And the business is established 10 years. So I have corporate financials of my business, and I also have my personal financials.
Yes.
How do those intermingle there in the qualification process, or do they?
Well, they do mingle, but our first look on any type of SBA loan is always at the business financials first. We want to see whether the business has the capacity to repay the proposed loan. And because it's a government loan, a federal loan, our first look is at the tax returns. So I generally ask for my clients to provide their 2 or 3 year latest tax returns. We'll review those together, and we'll talk about those. We also ask for a year-to-date 2018 profit and loss and balance sheet. And then we can, most likely within a few hours, we can talk about what options are available. And sometimes the borrower has to go to a couple of different banks. My bank, Seacoast Commerce Bank, is known in the business as being a very down-to-earth, aggressive, but also flexible bank. We want to make deals happen. We're a smaller bank, so we have to be very flexible. We have to be somewhat creative. We have to abide by all the SBA rules and regulations, but we want to make sure that we can make as many loans as we can to make sure that we can offer as many business owners the opportunity to own commercial real estate as possible.
Absolutely. Now, Kevin, how can my listeners get a hold of you?
Well, I appreciate that opportunity. They can call me direct. My desk phone is 818-477-2015. That's the phone right on my desk. I will gladly talk to anybody who has a question about SBA financing, specifically commercial real estate financing. Other banks may offer business acquisition, working capital, but we specialize in commercial real estate for business owners, ranging from gas stations all the way up to large industrial complexes.
Fantastic. We're going to go to a commercial break, Kelvin, but we want to bring you on here for this the second half of the show. Once again, you're listening to the Commercial Hour. You have Kelvin Davis on the line. I am your host, Jesus Henao of Leola Commercial, and stay tuned. We'll be right back.
There's nothing like a handmade, original, created with passion from the heart. Celebrating all things unique, the Harvest Festival Original Art and Craft Show at the Ventura County Fairgrounds, Friday through Sunday, October 5th through 7th. Shop over 24,000 original works from hundreds of artists. Enjoy live entertainment, a kids zone, and pumpkin patch, strolling performers, contests, specialty foods, demonstrations, and more. Visit harvestfestival.com or call 925-392-7300.
Do you think taxpayers should pay for politicians' political campaigns? Assembly candidate Christy Smith does. Christy Smith supports raising our taxes. But guess where the money would go? Christy Smith wants to spend as much as $600 million in taxpayer money paying for the annoying mail and TV that politicians bombard us with. Let that sink in. Assembly candidate Christy Smith wants you to pay for political campaigns, even for those politicians you disagree with. Let that sink in. Christy Smith would spend $600 million for politicians instead of better roads or better schools for our kids. Christy Smith is just wrong.
Women deserve equal pay for equal work. It's just that simple. That's what's good about Assemblyman Dante Acosta. Dante Acosta voted to require equal pay for equal work. And Dante Acosta voted to let every child attend pre-kindergarten. That's Dante Acosta. Bipartisan, independent, fair.
Paid for by Dante Acosta for Assembly 2018.
Your hometown station.
It's no secret that KHTS has the best midday talk show lineup around. If you've missed any of your favorites, no problem. KHTS has you covered. Podcasts for all the midday shows can be found right on our website, hometownstation.com. Whether you missed a show from 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years ago, and you want to catch up, we got you covered. They're all right there. Plus extra podcasts too. That's hometownstation.com. hometownstation.com.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
Hi, I'm Miles McNamara, Certified Senior Advisor and owner of Comfort Keepers in Home Care. Our caregivers help you in your own home. A Comfort Keeper can provide companionship, meal preparation, medication monitoring, assistance with personal care, transportation to doctor appointments, all enhancing your independence and safety in the comfort and privacy of your own home. So if you or someone you love could use a helping hand at home, call Comfort Keepers at 287-4200. That's 287-4200.
Santa Clarita's hometown station. Hometown station.
KHTS AM 1220 and the new 98.1 FM.
Welcome back to the Commercial Hour. This is Jesus Henao of Leola Commercial. On the phone today, we have Kelvin Davis from Seacoast Commerce Bank, and we're talking SBA financing. Welcome back, Kelvin. Let's dig a little deeper into rates. The other day, I think I saw that the federal funds rate was cranked up again. How does that affect SBA loans?
Well, it does affect SBA loans. As you know, the federal fund rate directly impacts the prime rate, and most SBA loans, both real estate, working capital, business acquisition, are tied to the prime rate. So when the federal funds rate goes up, so does the prime rate. We're currently, as of September 30th looking at a prime rate at 5.25%. That's a pretty sharp increase over the past several years, and it has caused a little bit of sticker shock.
So how does that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where was the prime rate?
Well, it's just a couple of years ago that we were below 4%, and the loans were very attractive. If you could get a loan at 1.5 over prime rate, you're probably looking at an interest rate below 5%. Now we're looking at prime rate plus 1. Today it's going to put you at 6.25%.
Ooh. And okay, we talked about some terms here, and I know what they mean, but I just I want to clarify for the average guy out there that has a pizza shop, sushi place, Mexican restaurant, or a clothing store, and he's looking to get SBA financing, and we just thrown some terms out there that are foreign to people. What is actually the federal funds rate? What does it do? What is that?
Well, just to keep it really simple, it's the rate that most banks are going to be borrowing at, and specifically that they're borrowing at from the Treasury from another government entity. So the banks borrow their money at a certain rate, and then they pass that money on to borrowers in the forms of loans. And so typically the prime rate represents the rate that's charged to the best customer. So the strongest, most well-heeled, financially sound customer gets charged what they would call theoretically the prime rate, which is today at 5.25%. But every bank has the opportunity to increase that rate on SBA loans. Some banks will offer a fixed rate to their better customers. And once again, this ties back to a review of the financial performance of the underlying business. So some businesses will get a lower rate, possibly a fixed rate, compared to other businesses, particularly newer businesses, or businesses that may have had some issues in the past. They may be looking at more of probably a variable interest rate subject to quarterly adjustment. But when you think about it, it's still a very effective program because it's a very seasoned program. It's a reliable program for business owners. So even if you don't get the same rate as the other guy, you're still getting the necessary capital to help your business grow.
Got it. Also, and correct me if I'm wrong, the federal funds rate is also the rate that banks charge each other by lending themselves money. And to expand on that a little bit, what it means is that every bank is required by law to have a certain amount of money in their accounts at the end of the day. If they don't, they borrow amongst themselves to make sure they meet those minimum requirements. Am I correct on that? And that federal funds rate is the rate that those banks charge each other to maintain those minimum balances. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, you're correct in that. It's it gets very complex, and I'm trying to stay out of the weeds a little bit. Mm-hmm. But you're correct. Banks do have excess capital, excess liquidity. And every day, a good CFO is looking at his or her balance sheet and trying to figure out, hey, can I earn a little extra money on my excess liquidity? And they'll lend it to a bank that may say, hey, I need a little bit of extra liquidity today, and I'll go ahead and borrow from Bank A. I'll borrow a few $100,000 or a few $1 million, and I'll just do it overnight, and then I'll repay it in the morning.
That's amazing. That fast. They just hit the button, they wire the money, boom, it's in. Next morning, boom, it's out.
That's about it.
That's great. I love it. Okay, and so let's get an example. What is the process now? So I'm good to go. What do I have to send you? Do you send me something? Do I send you something to apply for the loan? How does that work?
Jesus, there's two types of borrowers that come to me. The first one is looking to get pre-qualified. And they don't have a property that they've targeted yet, but they're working with a qualified person like yourself, and they're asking you to go out and find me a building that's, let's say, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 square feet in such an area that has certain types of characteristics. Maybe they need a loading dock, or maybe they need a certain amount of electricity, power. They come to me and they say, look, I'm in a range. Tell me what I can expect. So that's one client that comes to me. We sit down, as I said, we talk about their financials. We talk about different rate options that I can deliver. And I always provide that in writing to my customer, telling them what I can do. And, of course, that's subject to full underwriting, but based on my experience, I'm usually pretty right most of the time.
Got it.
The second customer has already found a property. they're probably in escrow. Their offer's been accepted. They've opened escrow. They've got money at risk in the form of an escrow deposit. So they've got a specific price. They may need to have some type of improvements done to the property. They may be looking to add an office building or add or upgrade the electrical, or possibly they need something that's special or unique to their business. So, for example, maybe they need a supersized air conditioning unit on the roof. Mm-hmm. We can finance those permanent building improvements through the SBA program, which is another benefit. So in addition to the purchase money financing, we can also provide financing for what we call tenant improvements. And you're familiar with that.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked a couple of weeks ago about TIs, which stands for tenant improvement. So it's a two-part loan then. I can buy the building, and those numbers are allocated. And then would be a second financing, or that would just be in addition to what I have to get those capital improvements to improve the unit, improve the tenant, maybe equipment. Let's say it's a bakery and it needs ovens, it needs extractors, it needs a refrigerator in there. You guys loan, so there's a second loan. Is it all one loan, or is it two loan deal?
We can actually do it both ways. We can do one loan, or we can do a second loan. It really depends on the factors of that particular transaction and also the loan size. I try, if possible, to make it one loan. It's just a little easier for me to do it as one loan. In some cases, we have to do it as a second loan. Mm-hmm. One of the unique things about Seacoast Commerce Bank is that once we get a handle on the cost of those tenant improvements, we can generally close escrow without having building plans approved or permits pulled, which is a very unique feature that our bank offers. So that means that you can close escrow without having your building plans approved by the local building department.
So, okay, that's very interesting you say that, because my wife's an architect. I made mention of her before, and as a matter of fact, she's down in Beverly Hills today. It looks like she's going to pick up a dentist's office, and I hear her all the time, and there's always a slowdown in the process when it comes to going to the building, getting your plans and permits. So would it be good to say if a client has identified a property, he is in escrow, or maybe, and he can get a longer escrow, he can have an architect develop the plans, get an idea of what he wants, give him some sort of cost, a ballpark cost. Then I think when they go to you, it would be easier, right, to say, okay, we feel that this is what it's going to cost for the tenant improvements. Or do you have a scale in your system? You look at it and you say, per square feet, I think it's going to be this range, and we loan on that. Because it's hard to really say how much you're going to spend, because there's no plans, there's nothing.
Well, you're right. It's a very difficult process, and it does take time. We generally, though, would like to get an estimate from either a contractor or an architect about the proposed improvements. Mm-hmm. This way we can underwrite the loan one time up front, and then if there's any adjustments that need to be made after we close escrow, we can revisit that with the architect or the contractor and make some adjustments to that budget.
So after you close, you can go back and talk a little bit more how to adjust those numbers.
Exactly, and that's one of the unique features at Seacoast Commerce Bank, is that we're more flexible in that regard. So we don't require that you have that budget nailed down and approved by the city prior to closing escrow.
That's very good. So let me ask you this. What has been the hardest deal for you, and why? And the reason why I say that is because, we're talking here, or we're throwing out hypotheticals. This could happen, that could happen. But there's always snags in the process. Things come up. Maybe they do some testing, and they found some contamination on the lot, or there's mold or something. What's been the hardest deal you've put together? How long? And by the way, give us a time frame of what it takes from beginning to end, from the time I submit an application to you till I get an answer.
Well, let me say this, Jesus. The important thing is to work with an experienced and competent SBA lender. SBA lending is very complicated. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of regulations. You want to work with somebody who has a lot of experience and understanding of those SBA rules and regulations. Typically, once I pre-qualify a client, which could take as little as 24 hours, once I get the information, I can respond in 24 hours. I can typically get formal approval and close that transaction in 30 to 35 days thereafter.
That's quick.
Yeah, we're moving quickly. This is something that we specialize in. We have a strong, competent staff of underwriters. of loan processors who are uniquely experienced and educated in SBA lending. So we were able to overcome a lot of things that might slow other banks down. And I think our reputation in the industry supports that. In terms of the things that are always difficult is, yes, last-minute things that come up. We are required to do an environmental assessment on the properties. So if we do have a situation where we find that there might be some contamination, that could come somewhat late in the transaction. We always try to see if we can get around those, but some of that might require using some of the outside government, state and federal agencies, for example, EPA. If there is an underground tank that may have leaked, there may be some cleanup that's required. And, of course, the buyer has to decide at that point if they want to go forward.
Got it. Once again, we have Kelvin Davis from Seacoast Commerce Bank on the line. We're talking SBA financing. If you want to reach him, you can reach him at 818-477-2015. Once again, that's 818-477-2015. So I got two more questions for you. One is there veteran SBA financing? Is there such a thing?
Veterans are always going to be receive a little bit of a I won't say a better deal, but there have been some incentives that were offered to veterans. Some of those incentives have gone away for a limited time. We're hoping to see those come back, where some of the costs were reduced for a honorably discharged veteran. And for a while there, some of the costs were reduced to zero. So there is a fee that gets paid to the federal government. Just a few years ago, that SBA guarantee fee was waived. Then it was reduced. Unfortunately, right now, that has not been the case, so we have not seen that. But, of course, when a veteran applies for financing, I think at most banks they're going to get excellent treatment. Everybody wants to reward and say thank you to our veterans.
Great, thank you. I'll be calling you pretty soon here to get advice. I threw that out there for my own interest.
I figured as
much. Okay, let's go back to the hard deal. What was the hardest deal you put together?
Boy, the hardest deal. Oh boy, there's a few of them, Jesus. I don't want to get too particular. I recently did a deal where a client who was an importer, a very lovely family. They had gone in escrow. They had sold their building. They were downsizing. They had made the decision that they maybe had expanded too quickly, and they were downsizing their property to a smaller property, sold their larger property. They had gone to a couple of banks, and they were declined. Unfortunately, the seller was not patient and wanted them to close in, I think it was 3 weeks.
Wow.
So they called me up, and they said, look, we've got a situation. They were referred to me, and I took a look at their numbers, and we had to do a little bit of analysis to explain what was happening with the business. The other banks felt that it was too risky. We were able to put together financing, and we were able to close that deal by the appointed deadline. It took a lot of work, and it took a lot of time driving back and forth to get the information we needed. But I was so happy when that borrower got the property, and I got a lovely card from them just about a week ago. So
that's great. Did you tell them you take the best way to thank you is to send money?
No, but he did send me some very good Chinese herbal tea. So I appreciated that, and I'm actually drinking some tomorrow. I have it every morning.
That's great. Well, speaking of tea, when I was in Peru, there's a coca tea. I don't know if you ever had that or been to Peru, but
no, I haven't.
It's actually from the coca leaf. But it's very good for you. It's a herbal. It's not a stimulant. The stimulant comes at, when they put whatever they put in to make cocaine, but the coca leaves is used by the indigenous people, the Incas, for many years, going up those hills because the elevation is really high. But fantastic. I brought some home. It's not illegal. It comes in a tea bag. There's a label on it, and it's very good. It's very good.
So. Well, as long as it doesn't get me into trouble, I'm willing to try anything.
Yeah, no, it's great. I have to get you some. All right, let's see here. What else can we talk about here on anything else you'd like to add about SBA financing that maybe there's some pitfalls that we should be aware of?
I would say to every business owner out there, your clients and many of the thousands of others out there, don't be afraid to apply with multiple lenders. Every bank is a little bit different, and I would encourage those business owners who may have been declined in the past or may have been told that they can't afford the property that they need, take a moment talk to people like Jesus, ask them their opinion. Jesus you're very knowledgeable about who's actively lending, who maybe not so much. I would encourage business owners to talk to their real estate agents and brokers because you guys are the ones who see who's actively out there making loans. You also see the banks that maybe not so much, not really aggressively making loans, not making as many, and maybe throwing up hurdles that prevents the business owner from actually closing his or her deal. So I would encourage, maybe you have to talk to a couple of different banks before you find the bank that suits you.
So let me ask you, you raised something that just came to my attention. So there's banks, and what about brokers? What is a loan broker different from what you do?
Well, I'm a banker, so I'm employed by my bank. I'm a senior vice president here at Seacoast Commerce Bank. The difference is that I'm actually representing the bank. And I'm employed by the bank. I have a singular relationship with the bank. I do not shop loans to other banks. I'm here to represent Seacoast Commerce Bank. A loan broker is going to try to find the bank that fits the borrower. So the loan broker is most likely going to be talking to multiple banks, multiple loan sources to try to find the loan for that particular customer.
And the disadvantage or advantage there is that the loan broker is going to charge his fee on top of the loan. So there's additional fees on there. They might be higher or lower. It all depends, right?
Yeah, that's correct. The loan broker has to be compensated. Typically, that's a conversation that the business owner wants to have up front with the broker and understand exactly how that broker is being compensated. In some cases, there's going to be extra fees that the business owner is going to pay in order to take advantage of a loan broker. So make sure that every business owner is aware of that.
And the good news, I think, with working with you, Kelvin, is that within 24 hour, with a 24-hour turnaround, once they fill out their application, you have a pretty good handle if you're a go or no go. And I'm sure then at that point they know where they need to go to see if they need to go somewhere else. Once again, we have Kelvin Davis on the phone. This is the Commercial Hour. Jesus Henao from Leola Commercial. Be sure to tune in right after the show today from 1 to 3. KHTS will have a 2-hour special hosted by Sharon Brubaker and Alex Urbina to remember the tragedy of Route 91 Festival in Las Vegas that happened about a year ago. So we're going to go do a little break, and we'll come back, and we got about 5 more minutes, Kelvin, and I'm going to take it. We're going to take the radio show to a different direction. I want to ask you something to maybe pass along to the kids out there looking to get into finance. Once again, this is the Commercial Hour.
Santa Clarita Philharmonic has begun its season of free concerts. The SCP is a non-profit community-based volunteer symphony orchestra comprised of local musicians from throughout the Santa Clarita Valley who are dedicated to providing quality classical music for the residents of the Santa Clarita Valley. Like the Santa Clarita Philharmonic on Facebook or visit santaclaritaphilharmonic.org for more information.
Your nails have amazing shine. What polish is that?
It's a gel manicure from Forever Nails and Spa.
What's a gel manicure?
It's a manicure that uses a special polish using a UV light. The polish has incredible shine and lasts for up to 14 days without chipping.
14 days? I've never heard of a polish lasting that long.
It's a great way to extend your manicure and save money on polish changes and touch-ups.
Located on the old road at Valencia Boulevard. Visit forevernailsandspa.com.
The Santa Clarita Artists Association has a new gallery in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Main and Railroad, right across from the Canyon Theater Guild. The gallery features our members' paintings, sculptures, and one-of-a-kind handcrafted gift items. Whether you're an art lover, buyer, or an artist wishing to join, visit our website at santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming events and exhibits, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
I'm Janet Demeter. My son Jack was born in 2008 on a Saturday night. But 5 weeks later, our family lost everything in the Merrick fire. And then we moved to Santa Clarita, where we live now. Jack was my shining light in those days. He had this huge smile that would make me feel like everything was going to be okay. But when he was 3, our sweet boy was diagnosed with DIPG brain cancer. 9 months later, we lost Jack. This is something I never want anyone else to hear. So I started working to raise awareness. I contacted my local officials, and Steve Knight was amazing. Not just his staff, but Steve Knight personally. Congressman Knight has authored many bipartisan bills signed by presidents from both parties. That is why I was thrilled when he authored HRES 69 to bring national attention to childhood brain cancer. Steve Knight, to me, is the perfect example of a local community leader working on behalf of the people he represents. Thank you, Steve.
I'm Steve Knight, and I approve this message.
Your hometown station.
KHTS AM 1220 and the new 98.1 FM.
Welcome back. This is the Commercial Hour. This is your host, Jesus Henao from Leola Commercial. We have Kelvin Davis of Seacoast Commerce Bank on the phone, and we've been talking SBA financing. And if you are interested in starting up a business, you want to find out how to get financing, give Kelvin a call. His number is 818-477-2015. Once again, 818-477-2015. And he can help you start up that dream business that you're looking for here in Santa Clarita or anywhere in California. And I think you can do loans anywhere, right, Kelvin? Where can you do business at?
Seacoast Commerce Bank actually covers most western states. We're actually expanding. For a long time, we were just west of the Mississippi. Mm-hmm. Now we're actually expanding our lending offices to include states east of the Mississippi. So we're slowly becoming a national lending platform.
Great. So wrapping up the show, you have a pretty strong record. Background. You went to UCLA. You received an economics degree, and you also went to Southwestern. I couldn't get that out of my mouth. And you have a law degree. What advice can you pass on to the younger generation in college, in high school, maybe coming out of the military? What can you advise them to achieve success?
Well, as I said, I have 4 boys myself, Jesus, and so this conversation comes up all the time. I would always encourage young people in the modern world to pursue education, make education a priority. Find something that you enjoy, find something that you can see yourself doing, and then just see where it goes. Along the way, you might have some other things come up. You might have a change of direction, but don't be afraid of that. As I tell my boys, aim high. Aim for the thing that you that you dream about, whether it's being a physician or a teacher or whatever it might be. Take the opportunity to aim high and pursue it, and just see how things work out. I think the military is an excellent vehicle. It helps a lot of young people to mature, to learn self-discipline, and then also provides financing for school through the GI Bill. So I think that's an excellent route for many people.
Absolutely, and believe me, the Marine Corps straightened me out. Let me tell you, at 17 years old, I thought I knew it all, and I figured out really fast I didn't know anything.
I think we're all like that, but we won't admit it, will we?
I will. I have to. My wife makes me admit it every day.
Yeah, fortunately, when I came out of UCLA, there were some training programs available. Mm-hmm. Some banks still have those training programs, and those are programs that help you find your place in the banking sector if that's a place that you're interested in. I came out, and it was a little bit hard time. We had gone through a bit of a recession when I came out of school. So the opportunity was given to me to be a bank regulator because there were actually more banks closing than opening at that time.
Oh, wow.
So I did spend about 7.5 years as a bank regulator, as an examiner. And then I moved on from there and went over to the private side. Also during that time, I went back to law school. And with a family, I went to school at night and earned my law degree. And but decided not to practice law. Decided that finance was where I wanted to be. And I've been there ever since.
Yeah, that's very interesting. A lot of people, older, I talk to the young kids coming out of college, the guys out of the military, and the GI Bill is very good now. When I went through, the GI Bill wasn't that great. I mean, it gave me, I think, a total of $12,000, and that didn't make a dent at USC. But I did go to community college first before I made over, and that did help with the community college. I strongly believe that you should seek that education and find your way. That's very important. If you're doing the right things, you'll eventually find out what you like. 'Cause when I got out of college, I wasn't thinking commercial real estate. I had applied to a job that was a marketing assistant at a commercial real estate firm, Marcus and Melchap, and I'm looking around in there. I see a lot of guys in ties, and I'm thinking, wow, I like this. And lo and behold, 24 years later, here I am. I have my own company. I'm doing great. I love it, and I can't see myself doing anything else. Perfect. So let me ask you this. This is what I was going to mention. The older, I have a lot of friends that are maybe a little bit older, in their 40s, and they're thinking, oh, I don't want to go back to college. But I had a good friend that had a family of 4. He had an accounting degree, and I think at 45, he said, I'm going back to college, and he received his law degree afterwards. So I don't think age is a number. I think you can go back and do whatever you want. If law is the direction you want to go for it. And it can be done if you put in the effort.
I agree, Jesus. We learn so much about ourselves as we grow older, and we become more of an individual. Mm-hmm. When we're young, we tend to follow the crowd, but as we get older, we start learning who we are. Mm-hmm. And if law is something that you're interested in, I would encourage you to pursue it. There's so many different opportunities. You might find yourself staying up late at night. You might find yourself not being as social to achieve those goals, but I think it's worth it. Absolutely.
And you know what? The college has changed tremendously. You can do college online now. ASU, UCLA, USC. There's many colleges where you can do your degree online, whether it be law, whether it be a master's degree in real estate development, maybe it's a nursing program, and there's opportunity for you out there. You just got to go out there and make it happen.
And I think with the new millennials, there's also opportunities across the world. So when you and I got out of college, we didn't expect that we were going to work on another continent, but now our young people have that opportunity in many cases. So they're not just working in the United States, but they're actually traveling now as young professionals across the globe, because we really do have a global economy now.
Yes, and that's a great way to go explore the world, maybe meet your future wife. It's awesome. I love it. Once again, we have Kelvin Davis online. We're about to wrap up the show. Kelvin, thank you so much for taking time out of your day, coming out, talking to us about SBA financing, giving some words of advice to the younger generation. I strongly believe that we have to help them and help them find their way. And thank you again. And before we go, remember, be sure to stay tuned right in after the show from 1 to 3 right here on KHTS. We'll have a 2-hour special hosted by Sharon Brubaker and Alex Urbina, remembering the tragedy of Route 91 Festival in Las Vegas that happened about a year ago. Once again, thank you for coming in. This is the Commercial Hour.